So welcome everybody. Hi, I'm Kathleen Greiner. I'm moderating this session. And I just want to start it off with just a little bit of energy. It is 3 o'clock. You know what happens at 3 o'clock? Mid-afternoon. A couple hours left before you can get in the car and drive home, at least that's the way it is in Orange County. I'm the director for our Center for Entrepreneurship at North Orange County Community College District. Not a lot of community college representation here. And in fact, our center is one of only 3 at a community college out of 116 community colleges here in California. We'll be inaugurating our center here in the first part of May with an opening ceremony. So while I'm here, I'm also dealing with how many more flower arrangements do we need? Are they an approved vendor? I'm like, oh my God, high stress stuff. So that was just by way of waking you up just a little bit and preparing for what is a wonderful, wonderful presentation and array of panelists this afternoon. I'd like to introduce you to there will be 3 presentations this afternoon. Meet the Gig Lab, the rise of freelance entrepreneurs. Raise your hand if that's all of us, which includes me. We've all got side gigs. I mean, I work for a community college district, and I've got 2 side gigs. And Rose Masnak is going to take us through that, followed by values as drivers of a sustainable business mindset on undergraduate students. That's going to be led by Sylvia Nunez and joined here by some of her colleagues, Raul Flores as well as Diana Ruiz. So welcome to Diana as well. Digital entrepreneurship mindset. Kavav Berry will be leading us through that, and he's here from San Diego State University. So thank you all for being a wonderful panel. Let's get going. Thank you.
All right, well, let's rock and roll. I've got 12 minutes of fame here, so it's wonderful to be here. My name is Rose Masnak, and I am here all the way from Canada, Conestoga College in Waterloo Region in Canada. So a little bit of context, I am director of the Conestoga Entrepreneurship Collective. I'm also faculty in entrepreneurship, advertising, and sales, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I can tell you a little bit about who I am coming into this role, but also some context on the college that informs this. We are in Silicon Valley North. We have 2 universities and our college. We are where BlackBerry was founded. There are so many accelerators and incubators, you can't swing a cat without hitting one. So when we wanted to create our collective, we had to find white space. And that white space had to be reflective of our college. It had to be differentiated in the market, and it had to be complementary because we didn't want to have to compete with the universities. So we created the collective, and one piece of differentiated and complementary and reflective of our college labs is what I'm going to talk to you about today, which is the Gig Lab. Freelancers, which, as Colleen mentioned, everyone in this room is or was at some point, if you're part-time faculty, right? And it is like the Rodney Dangerfield of entrepreneurship. It can't get no respect. And they are entrepreneurs. They're running a single-person business. So I'm going to talk a bit about the opportunity that we identified in our market, the approach we took, and the results to answer these essential questions. What is the Gig Lab? Is it right for your institution as well? Is this something you could take home and do within your school or your incubator area? So how can you do it too? So here's the opportunity. There were 3 elements that converged. First, there was the rise of the gig economy. I'm not talking Uber Eats, I'm not talking about any of these kind of platform gigs. I'm talking about professional services that are monetized by individuals. In Canada, that's 1 in 10 people that are engaged, either full-time or part-time, in professional gigs. So we knew that that was exploding, and COVID just accelerated that dramatically. Secondly, we had a huge demand for our local student talent, not when they graduated, yes, that was happening, but when they were in school. And so they would approach, companies and individuals would approach faculty and say, hey, do you have a student who can do a website for me? Do you have a student who might be able to do my books? And so what happened was the student choice was based on the faculty's preference, right? Oh, I like this person, I'll refer them. And there was no support for the student. So the student would say, oh, you'll pay me $25 for that? Okay. So there were some predatory practices happening by clients and individuals who used students and wanted to pay them a low amount of money or no money because they were building a portfolio, even though they were doing industry level work. So we knew there was demand for the talent, but there was no support system for that. And then on the other side of that, we had students coming to us in our core venture lab, because we do have a lab that supports scalable businesses. And they would say, I want to be a graphic designer, and I want to just go out there and, sell my services. Well, you can come into the venture lab, but there's so much that we do that is wasted time for you, that is at too big of a level for you. You don't care about operations. You don't care about inventory at that level. You've got your computer. You've got your software. So they would come in, but they wouldn't last because it felt like it was over their heads. And so when we looked at all three of these things together, my God, we have supply, we have demand, and we have this incredible market trend. Let's create something called the Gig Lab. And the Gig Lab is the first business incubator for freelancers. And we created that in spring of 2020. And we couldn't believe that we were the first. It was crazy. Forbes magazine reached out to us and said, nobody else is doing this. Maybe because it's not sexy enough. But we're not sexy, we're a community college. We just do things. Right? Go non-sexy. Community colleges. So there were 6 elements that we focused on. Number 1, we had to create a dedicated freelance roadmap. And I'll go into this a little bit more in the next slides. We had to find gig coaches, not venture coaches, but gig coaches, very different. We needed SMEs, mentors, and market research that could support freelancers, not ventures. We needed a talent pipeline, where were all these students going to come from, and how are we going to tap into the ones that wanted the service. We needed a launch platform for them at the end, because the typical launch platforms didn't work. And then we needed a client pipeline that were actually going to use them. So our freelance roadmap, we built a 15-week program that included one-on-one coaching, group and peer-to-peer coaching. If you're going to do this, the group and peer-to-peer is critical. We started just with one-on-one, but this is a community of freelancers. It's very important for them to build that sense of community. And curated SMEs and mentorship around the different service areas. So in our first phase, all the strategic foundations, what's your positioning, what are you selling, who are you selling it to, what makes you different and better, what should they pay you. Phase 2, operational frameworks. Registering your business. Do you want to have a business name? That's going to cost you $60. You want to have a business name and you want to do it as Rose Massac? Great, it's free. How to invoice, how to do proposals, those kinds of things. And then phase 3, demand generation. Everyone thinks they want to start a demand generation. They think they're ready for it. Nobody's ready for it. But this is where you do your sales playbook. This is where you learn to create a repeatable process for getting the clients that you want to get. And then we put you in the wild. And we help you get your first client, and your coach helps you through that process of having a real live client who's paying you money and how to handle that. So then our gig coaches. So the initial, by the way, on this one with the freelance roadmap, we do this all on Trello, so if you want to talk about this later, it's a really powerful tool. I'm talking to some people about this, but we do this all on Trello. We manage this with agile project management throughout those 15 weeks. So the gig coaches. So I want to give you some learning at the same time as I talk about this. Gig coaches. So we hired individuals as coaches who had been actively freelancing. So that's important. Just like in the venture lab where you want to have an entrepreneur, you want someone who's been freelancing at least 5 years. But there was no market for that, because nobody had done this before. With venture coaches, you can poach them from other accelerators and incubators. You got lots of entrepreneurs who've made their nut and now they want to, go and help in the ecosystem, but there was no market for that. So for us, we have a better strategy now. So we definitely hire freelancers. We do not hire consultants, okay? Consultants are a different kind of freelancer. They are much more mature. They have a lifelong network. They are hiring much higher rates. So you want someone who is freelancing at the same level that your students are going to be. Hire someone who thinks freelancing is a good thing. That means they're a modern freelancer, not someone who freelanced 20 years ago and was forced into doing that. There are freelancers who are coaches. If you look hard enough, it really makes a difference. And you have to do coach PD. You have to, because nobody's done this before. You have to use professional development. SMEs and mentors. Get the right level of SMEs and mentors. So you want relevant levels of experience. They need a tax expert. They need a bookkeeper. They don't need someone who's going to talk to them about IP and patents. Okay, so get what's relevant to your freelancers. For your mentors, bring in those experienced freelancers, educators, company representatives, and curate them. Curating the mentors is key. Don't just get a roster of mentors and go one size fits all, because it does not. So spend the time to curate those for the full group, for the specific person, or the service sector. We also just did some market research. Initially, we had students do all their own research. Now, I hired work study students to do market research in the key areas that kept repeating themselves in our cohorts. Graphic design, bookkeeping, digital marketing, social media marketing. We did all of that macro market research for them, so their starting point is, where do I fit within that? Talent pipeline. Initially, shotgun, who's interested? Not anymore, I don't have that kind of marketing money, right? So now we reach out to high potential programs like graphic design and social media marketing. We collaborate with program coordinators and key faculty to get into their classrooms. We've started integrating into courses to the extent that we're on course outlines. So no matter who's teaching, no matter who retires, no matter who's part-time, it is in the course outline that they collaborate with us in the gig lab so that the students are aware of that. Once you have the project demand data from doing this for a while, then you can actively pursue gig lab applicants from those projects. So, wow, everybody's looking for app development. Let's go and pursue them. We created a launch platform. So this is another first. It's called ConestogaGigs.ca. It is a lead generation marketplace only for Conestoga freelancers. When you graduate from the gig lab after 15 weeks, then you are launched onto the gig marketplace. And this is something that was a nightmare for me for quite some time because we launched it 3 years ago and it just took off last year. So I was an entrepreneur in the purest form. So initially we built this platform and we took a very hands-off approach. We just wanted to create a lead gen platform, drive clients to it, have the freelancers respond to contact information, and God bless you. You guys go and figure it out. That didn't work so well. We also started with a small number of freelancers just to see what would happen. And we purchased marketplace software. Wouldn't do that again. So, better strategy, actively manage the site of both freelancers and clients. Vet your freelancers and clients. Have a conflict resolution plan. Build transparency into the site, and just use WordPress and say, like, build an MVP and figure it out, you know? And have more than enough freelancers on your platform for potential demand. What changed everything for us was this, the client pipeline. Initially, we advertised to the broader community to get companies to come to the site. And we spent so much time, because we didn't have a lot of money, trying to drive people there. Everything changed when we collaborated with a local accelerator. And we were part of their grant submission to provide support services to their companies with our freelancers. So $800,000 over 2.5 years will go directly to these freelancers as a result of that program. Every company there has a stipend and they can only spend it on this marketplace. And it changed everything. So every year, we have 45 students in the gig lab. In the last 9 months, we've had over 100 clients and over $300,000 in projects, which is coming primarily from that Accelerator Center project. These 3 individuals all left their jobs because they did so well over the last 9 months. They said, I think I can do this thing. There were obviously more on our marketplace, and you're welcome to check it out at ConestogaGigs.ca. But these 3 in particular really leveraged that opportunity. Digital marketing with PrevJot, international student made good, incredible. Northern Dev, Stephen McCabe, biz student that partnered with a coder on app development for MVPs. And Field & Co. branding and design. Did an incredible job. So next for us, we want more programs like this. And the Accelerator Center's already come to us to say, can we duplicate this together? It's working so well. So we've got them actually helping us do more of that. More freelancers. We're doing more academic integration. We're actually putting this into our co-op and field placement opportunities as well. And now we're looking to become self-sustaining by launching some advertising opportunities on that ConestogaGigs.ca website for companies like H&R Block, for example, that would be, and Tangerine and other companies that have a real interest in these young entrepreneurs and freelancers and supporting them in their business needs. And that is it. I think I'm on time.
So, hello everyone, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Hope so. Well, thank you, Kathleen, for the presentation. As she said, my name is Silvia Perez. I'm a professor, full-time professor at CEEC Universidad Campus Tijuana, and I'm very happy to be here. So today we are going to talk about the mindset. We've heard that entrepreneurship mindset, but we are looking for a sustainability mindset. So we ask ourselves what triggers entrepreneurs' decisions to go the sustainable path. And from experience from another researchers where we interviewed some entrepreneurs from the gastronomic sector in Ensenada, and for our literature review, we know that values are behind these business decisions for sustainable actions. So the elements of the sustainability mindset are these three dimensions: systemic dimension, innovative dimension of thinking, and the dimension of being. And this is where values are. So the sustainability mindset is defined as a way of thinking and being that results from a broad understanding of the ecosystem's manifestation from social sensitivity, as well as an introspective focus on one's personal values and higher self, and find its expression in actions for the greater good of the whole. So what that means is looking forward to have actions, business actions in the economic dimension, in the social dimension, and the environment dimension. So we know that Schwartz's value structure have two values that are very related to sustainability, and these are in the self-transcendent spectrum and are universalism and benevolence. So what are these values? The definition: preserving benevolence, preserving and enhancing the welfare of those with whom one identifies personally. And universalism: understanding, appreciation, tolerance, and protection for the welfare of all people and for nature. So values do matter when concerning sustainable focused entrepreneurial activity. Since we know that mindsets can be developed, business schools' key challenges is to find pedagogical strategies to have students learn and apply sustainable entrepreneurship practices. So business school can be a force for good, make a positive difference, positive social impact, and the challenge of integrating curricular programs and different initiatives that nurture students' sustainable business mindset. So, our research question is, what is the relative importance of the values of universalism and benevolence on the core values profile of undergraduate students? And our objective is, following the literature review, they suggested that we needed a good way of knowing if we as a business schools are in the right track for educating for sustainability. We needed to measure a course at the beginning and at the end and see what is the impact of that. So we studied the relative importance of the core values profile of undergraduate students enrolled in this special course, Human Being and Sustainability class. This is a 7-semester course at CEEC Universidad during the semester, the second semester of 2022. We focus on finding the values of self-transcendent spectrum as triggers of a sustainable business mindset. So this is like the ecosystem of the ecosystem for sustainability education. As we see, we have values in each one of these dimensions: ecological worldview, system perspective, spiritual intelligence, and emotional intelligence. So this is the framework of a sustainability education. So we know at CEEC that over the years, we have these different sustainability projects and initiatives in each of one of these systems perspectives. And as you can see, the Human Being and Sustainability class impacts each one of these perspectives. So, and we, since I think 2020 or 2019, we at CETIS Campus Tijuana had an institutional program that is called the Zero Waste Project. So, under these, the Human Being and Sustainability course, which we have this like a very general syllabus, Unit 1, Understanding Global Environment, Unit 2, Regional Environment, Unit 3, Global Environmental Problems and Human Responsibility, Unit 4, Sustainable Development, and Unit 5, Development of a Sustainable Project. In addition to this, students are asked and mentored to have the Zero Waste Project in their house, in their home. So we give them some strategies and orientation so they can do this at their home in the semester. So what we did is we measured using the portrait value questionnaire, translated to Spanish and validated for the Mexican undergraduate populations. And we, as I said, we measure, we give them this survey, in August, which is the beginning of our semester, and we did it again in November, which is at the end. We had on that semester 7 groups, but only 3 of them did the full round of the 2 moments of the survey. So we have a sample of 55 students. Well, what we did is we are a hierarchy organization of the 10 values at both of those times, or both of those moments. So this is what we have. This is the profile in August of 22, and as you can see, benevolence is, universalism and benevolence are part of the 5 most important core values, and universalism is in a very good place, second place. And what happened in November is that we have both of those values in our results, benevolence and universalism, in first and second place. So what this means, this is something that I have for my students. I asked them to give me their takeaways from the course, and they said, for example, it was an excellent learning experience. This is referring to the Zero Waste Project, in-house project. It was an excellent learning experience. I am very proud of the work that I managed to implement at home and with myself. Without a doubt, this activity leaves me a lot of learning, since it made me raise awareness about my consumption and that of my family. And I won't spend more time on this, but this is very important. This is what they really learn. So in conclusion, the results describe clear evidence of the transformational impact on the core values profile of the undergraduate students enrolled in this course. And the position of these values, benevolence and universalism, in the first places of the core values profile of undergraduate students generates evidence that CETIS Business School meets the challenge of attending to instrumental knowledge and the appropriate scenario, the appropriate context to promote sustainability and influence the worldview and attitudes of undergraduate students towards sustainable development. And we think that these students are becoming drivers of change because they work with their families also. It contributes to leaders who generate a deeper social change, since the personal values of these undergraduate students are inclined towards the common good. And it also contributes to the development of a sustainable mindset, which is a holistic thought scheme that results for understanding, again, the ecosystem functioning, social sensitivity, and personal values. They are expressed through actions for the common good. And thank you very much for your attention.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to SESU. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I'm Pavel Perry. I'm Faculty of Information System Management, Fellow College of Business, and Director of Digital Innovation Lab here on campus. So, talk about the mindset, because let's continue that discussion, if you don't mind. I'm going to talk about entrepreneurship mindset and how we can cultivate it among college students, particularly particularly undergraduate students. So, background. Digital Innovation Lab here on campus train about 30 students as a digital innovation consultant per year. We work in startups, companies, medium, large, some students somehow like your, the lab to have their project with them. And they work lab for 2 to 3 semesters, and all of them they either secure high-profile job as consultant analyst with Fortune 500 companies, or they go to grad schools. So we want to scale this. We want to make sure how we can create this type of education for all, not only for students who join the lab. One of the projects we had was how to cultivate digital entrepreneurship mindset among employees in corporate entrepreneurship settings. We had clients interested to increase their employees' engagement in digital innovation or transformation initiatives so that they can create and participate in those projects. So we wanted empirical studies. I'm not going to go through the details of that study today at all. I'm going to give you some theoretical background. Unlike typical theoretical background, this is more applied, how we translate the science into action. Okay, so what is mindset? There are different definitions of mindset. This is how we define it. It's implemental and deliberative mental framework that enable cognitive ability. So it is some sort of the drive, and it's related to the how we make decisions. It's not just capacity, it's more like ability. So cultivating mindset, it means to creating or building that ability. Or if students have that type of ability, let them to bring it up. So there are 3 different levels of mindset: perception ability, conception ability, and believing. All theory, but they're all necessary. So we need to know what we know about ourselves in the first place, right? Second, we need to know about what we know about ourselves is valid and useful. Secondly, and third of it is we know what we know about ourselves, which know is helpful, useful, valuable. We can put it in action, we can apply it. So many literature in entrepreneurship only touch the first one, the perception, right? They never go into the action. And the problem is when you build on that type of theory, what happens? You create students knowledgeable about opportunities out there, but they never have an ability to differentiate and evaluate them and elaborate them, let alone put them in action. So looking back at the theory to make sure this is, we have a better picture of what's going on with mindset. So what is entrepreneurial mindset? Again, it's a cognitive ability. We define it as modular, it's 3 level, perception, conception, and belief. In the context of entrepreneurship, of course, entrepreneur opportunities. Right? So just contextualize that. This helps students or any individuals to identify opportunities, interpret them, somehow elaborate on them so that they can evaluate it. So without elaboration, they can evaluate them and then act on them despite uncertainties. So what is digital entrepreneurship mindset? What we're trying to achieve in our research lab. So we just contextualize it in a digital context. So where students can use digital technology, including digital assets like data, cryptocurrency, digital tools, digital platforms, digital infrastructure like cloud computing, identify those technologies without being expert in those technology, and then being able to compare and contrast those technology opportunities comes with those technology, and again exploit them in an effective way. That's true in college when they are doing the side projects, doing internship, doing their job, or even in context. Doesn't matter. The context is important because this is completely distributed. So based on this background and our interview with the founder plus tons of surveys after that, more than 400 participants, we validate this conceptualization of the digital entrepreneurship mindset as explorative, collaborative, and strategic approach to opportunity cycle. Now we get to the interesting part, how we can build that. So it's very difficult to create a program or activity and say, oh, this will help the student to build that mindset. At least we identify any successful. So instead of working on mindset, we look at what are the drivers of the mindset. In our studies with take a start founders, we focus on what are the direct drivers of the mindset, what they have that other people don't, that make them build that type of mindset at those three levels. So we identify one of the most important one, and we call it digital literacy. Simple. Again, when we are talking about the literacy, it's not about, oh, I'm an expert in cloud computing or IoT. You just say, if I need to know anything about IoT, I'm able and confident to go after that, study that, and learn what's going on in the context of business, not in technology. So, and then we look at it at what is this literacy, right? What's digital literacy? Again, we identify three levels of literacy. Knowing the concepts, knowing how the concept can be applied, procedural knowledge, and above all, which is missing among many tech-startup founders with not much success, was conditional literacy. Then they know when and why they need to apply that knowledge that they have. So in my program information system, that comes of a student, they come with digital literacy. That they have this integrated knowledge, they have procedural knowledge. But because of missing conditional knowledge, they never can participate in real-world projects. And just a side note, there are three recent studies that confirm that new generation, unlike commonly known, they are less tech-savvy than the previous generation. They think they are, but they don't. Again, why? Because they are digital native, and by that nativity, they forget about that conditional knowledge that require them to put that knowledge into practice. The previous knowledge, they are better at conditional digital literacy, and as a result, they are more successful in implementing and they are creating value with that type of knowledge. So what goes to the digital literacy? How education programs can build that foundation for students? We define that as digital learning potency. And again, this is in a corporate entrepreneurship context, right? So the goal was help, let's say, HR to identify talent, join the company and eventually contribute to digital innovation and transformation initiative. So we identify a couple of characteristics with that type of potency: openness, adaptability, risk appetite, and initiative. Right? And we have tons of examples in that context that, for example, when you have an employee who is knowledgeable in one type of technology or process, but he or she is not really open to try an alternative solution. Or when they, the technology with not much history, take the risk to implement that type of technology and see whether or not that type of take initiative to learn about new technologies beyond the job description. So putting all these things together and building that increase that digital entrepreneurial mindset, and as a result can increase intention to participate in digital innovation or entrepreneurship initiatives. However, environmental support is the second contributing factor to increase that intention. Intention is not enough. If there is no support, companies, regardless of how successful they are in hiring talent, are not going to be able to create the value of it. So, in educational setting, how we would help students to get to that point. So first, as I mentioned, it is almost impossible to tackle the problems mindset directly. We need to go back. We need to create an environment where students they can explore, experiment, evaluate, and use the different types of technology in even very simplistic setting to build that type of confidence that eventually leads to that mindset. And of course, in the corporate setting, in addition to corporate training, hiring team assignment based on the traits of digital learning potency would help companies to build more successful teams and create support for the initiatives that they have. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have time for questions, and Pooja's here to help us with the microphone. Who wants to get us started?
I have a question of Rose. So the 15 weeks that you have for the gig accelerator, whatever the program is called, is there a structured curriculum for that, or?
Yes, so there is absolutely, because it's 15 weeks end to end, so everyone has to go through the same roadmap. And so I showed you just sort of roughly how we broke things out with, they would start by discovery, both at the market level, and then in terms of positioning themselves, identifying specifically the service that they're going to offer, who they're going to offer that to, and then their differentiation is absolutely key, and we spend quite a bit of time on that, because in general, someone will go out and just freelance and say, I'll just see what the market tells me, but it's so fragmented, you end up in a race to the bottom. You end up, it just becomes about price, unless you really know what you're offering, why you should be the choice. So we spend a lot of time in that on the front end, and then they go into producing some assets as a reflection of that. And so that's about the first 5 to 6 weeks. Then the operational frameworks, that's about 4 weeks. So proposal structures, invoice structures, those kinds of things. Some people are farther ahead than others, so if they did have any kind of freelancing experience beforehand, they had that done, they can run forward a little bit with their coach. And then once we get into the sales and marketing part, they're pretty consistently together in building the playbook and then their repeatable process. But once they actually go into the wild and start to look at securing clients, if they secure a client sooner, then they'll start working with that coach sooner. We've had people who have 1, 2, 3 clients already while they're still with their coach during that 15 weeks. But it is 15 end to end, and then when they go on to the marketplace, we're letting them stay on that marketplace right now for a year, so they get some traction. Those that are attractive to the startups from the Accelerator Center, obviously you're getting a ton of business right now in graphic design and coding, etc. Bookkeepers not as much, because it's not what they're looking for right now. But we're looking for other organizations that we can kind of push to the site and make the same kind of deals with that will also be good for those types of entrepreneurs.
Excuse me, they get credit, they count credit for those 15.
They do not get credit, it's extracurricular. But however, what I'm working with right now on academic integration is there are, in particular in creative industries, in graphic design, they have an entrepreneurship course that focuses on freelancing. So I'm looking at making it possible to have a course outline, like a B version. If they apply and they're accepted to the Gig Lab, it's going to be applied to that course. So that is something new that I'm working on.
Doesn't really seem fair that they don't get credit.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's free to the students, and it's seen as extracurricular, just like everything else that we do in the lab. there's a process of acceptance as well on the academic side to make sure that we're going to cover, tick the boxes, because we don't provide marks. Like, you win or you don't. It's pass fail, right? You out there and you get jobs or you don't. But we absolutely can structure it in a way that we have rubrics and that we can, we're basically fulfilling the outcomes, but in a different fashion. But we also don't want to compromise the reality of what we do with the academic side. And so that's the balancing act that we're going through right now. And we'll probably end up calling it potentially a field placement, like the field placement co-op that is a credit. We want to see how we can fit it into that structure properly, so that we can have the best of both worlds. Yeah.
I was going to ask about the price and about the credits, and then, so have you seen in your experience a specific year when students are interested or approach, and then do you hold those 15-week programs in a specific time of the academic year? And then I'm also wondering, has the Geek Club thought about, I know you mentioned partnerships with other centers and labs. Have you thought about providing this type of training either as outside training, exec training, or just open to the public for a price?
So there's a few questions there. So we primarily get students that are in upper years. So third year or like fourth year, there's a graphic design degree. That's when they feel confident enough. There are some students actually that have talent earlier, but they have the confidence in more in the upper years. Or when they've gone out, they've tried to find a job and they're like, oh, maybe I'll freelance. This happened a lot in COVID, and they realize, wow, I can really do this thing and I can make money and have my freedom. So, but it tends to be the upper year students. Now I've lost track. The second question is?
My second question was around the 15-week program. So do you have a specific time of the year? Do you run it continuously? Yes. Or?
So we have 3 intakes a year that is consistent with the terms, the semesters. So that's where we get the 45. Right now our capacity is for 15 students with 2 coaches each term. I think this year, or this cohort for the spring, we're going to have 20, so I'm actually having to up hours. So our coaches are part-time admin. They're not faculty. So I have some flexibility within my own budget if I want to increase those hours to be able to take more students within that. And then have we considered offering this externally? So the mandate of the collective is to serve our Conestoga students and alumni like cradle to grave. Like if you've ever graduated from the college, great. I did create a micro-credential based on this. It's pay to play. So if you take all 3 of them, it's around $900 Canadian, which is $5 American or something, it's much less. And so that, I didn't have the money to promote properly. So we launched it, really didn't get a whole lot of traction, and now it's just kind of sitting there, not doing a whole lot of things. I think that's largely because we were created to serve our constituency. And so there's a ton of opportunity there. It's just how we're going to get that information out into the community. The other aspect with that is that the freelancers that are in the community are really convinced all they need are more clients. And so to get them to agree to come in and look at their strategy and positioning instead of, you're crazy, whatever job comes my way, I'm gonna take. That's not our philosophy. That's not a strong business philosophy. That's driven by fear. There's a lot going on there. So in order for them to take the micro-credential, they have to do the strategic portion. They don't have to do operational frameworks, which is the separate micro-credential if they're set up, and then they have to take the sales one. And a lot of times they just wanted to take the sales one. It's like, we're not doing it. You're not set up. I'm telling you right now, you don't have a positioning that's defensible. They don't like that.
One last question, because you mentioned constituents, and we know staff and faculty sometimes have side hustles or gigs. Is it also open, or have you thought about opening and admitting staff and faculty, or just? Yeah,
right now it's not available. I've had a lot of requests. I've had a lot of requests. Yeah, and right now it's not open to. I think that it should be, because our venture lab isn't open to faculty right now either. But I absolutely think that's something that we want to open up to. We're only 4 years old, so the vision of this was created 4 years ago when I was seconded from faculty, and the goal was, if you're successful, then you can keep growing this. And right now we're completely funded by the college. So it's like a $800,000 investment on their part. So I think we've built credibility now to be able to start, asking for some additional things that based on solid rationale. So I think we're at a point now where we can start to expand that mandate somewhat, which is kind of exciting. And this is also a big part of it, just sharing what we've done, because it's taken us 3 years to get here, so.
I have several questions, so but I will stick to two. First one, it's kind of a comment. So you have a website, but do you have a mobile application?
ConestogieGigs.ca is on mobile, but I don't think it's particularly good. The MVB is much better on web than it is on mobile.
So my question, the second question is, so you have used the term modern freelancer. Can you elaborate on that? Thank you.
So I had the experience earlier on of bringing in freelancers as coaches that were more my age and had been freelancers for a long time. And so they thought of freelancing as something, they didn't consider themselves entrepreneurs necessarily. They were like very hard-baked, what do I need to do to keep the lights on? They did some things very, very well, but they didn't really want to have a positioning because they wanted to keep themselves open because they've had feast and famine times. And so you need someone that has a more youthful mindset, is not coming in afraid of not being able to pay their mortgage or put their kids through university. Like there's just there's an age factor, there's an industry factor, there's a life experience factor. That coming in and not leading with fear again in that. And we just had that experience. I had one person who was a consultant and one person who'd been a freelancer for a long time. And they didn't come back after one term because it was like, this is just not working, right? There was just a lot of negativity around it. And the consultant was pretty confident everybody could demand $500 an hour just through their network. It's like, dude, that's you. That was 30-year network that you've just built, right? So I think that modern freelancer is really a different, they're a different animal.
It's kind of entrepreneurial freelancer.
They're entrepreneurial, they're open to learning, they are more youthful, and they have some room to fail and learn.
I was very stimulated by Kara's presentation. At my university, we've done a lot of work on entrepreneurial mindset and sustainability mindset. But what does it mean to create a culture or a digital mindset at a university? What kinds of practical suggestions can you make?
Thank you. So first of all, it's not possible to plan around that. So if you are talking about the formal education setting, it's different from informal. So in formal education setting, you need to just rethink how the courses are delivered, right? So for example, in my courses, there is no exam, there is no textbook, there is no assignment. Students, they need to work on a real world project that even myself cannot help them. So I assign them to define project themselves. They go after expert outside campus, identify mentors to be able to explore those opportunities, identify technologies that can help them, and then ideate around that. So I have a 4-step process. I call it social exploration, social ideation, social experimentation, social validation, and the students need to go through these phases. The end result of this process is that type of mindset that comes, not just mindset, with confidence. So that's the, so 1/3 of the courses offered in college setting are not able to deliver this type of learning experience. In formal setting, I partner with startups, with companies, so that they can offer students challenging problems that is challenging for them, for themselves, and that would leads to that mindset.
Well, thank you all for being here this afternoon. Have a great rest of your evening. I don't know if is there a session after this, or are we, I guess in that room. So, but thank you all for being here, and see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye now.